1565 The Shogun's 6 Samurai. Hisahide was tired of the shogun hindering his progress. Part of their deal is that the Miyoshi would protect Nijo Palace. Hisahide offered to relieve the shogun's protectors with his own men. However, he quickly ordered his men to set fire to the palace and kill the shogun. Sorry Yashiteru, I'm sure you could have brought peace with enough time. But for my plans to come into reality you must die. The messenger explained the situation and Yashiteru realized that they were trapped. Damn the sly cur Hisahide. He reneged on our deal. Has he no shame or honor? He looked to his lover, his master and his guards. If you turn me over to them, they may offer clemency. Bokuden immediately responded, perish the thought. I'll stand by my student until I can stand no more. Saki grabbed a nearby naginata. I will not live in a world without my beloved shogun. I won't let them near you as long as I draw breath. If we are to die today, I'll seek you out in the next life. He looked to the Kamiizumi brothers and Yashifuji stepped forward. We gave you our names and now we proudly offer our lives. If the enemy sees you, then know that we are all dead. Yashiteru looked over at them. You are all Benkei to my Yashitsune. The shogun and Bokuden went into the sword room. The remaining 5 closed the doors behind them and prepared for battle. Inside the sword room Bokuden and Yashiteru unsheathed the swords decorating the walls and began planting them in the walls and the tatami mats on the floor. Master, you're shaking. Are nerves getting the best of the legendary Bokuden Tsukahara? The old master responded, no, death doesn't frighten me. I'm anxious at the prospect of handling so many legendary swords. Dojikiri, Izeoi, Yamagi, Zenka no Tachi and Onimaru. It's a dream come true. I just wish the circumstances weren't so dire, so I could savor the experience more. Yashiteru and Bokuden were surrounded by unsheathed swords. They prepared for their assassins. A dozen men entered the courtyard. Take us to the shogun and we will spare your lives. Yashifushi walked forward calmly and cut the first 2 men down. Then the next 4 with a fluid sequence of cuts. The last 6 surrounded him. He managed to cut down 4 with 2 circular slashes. Then the penultimate and the last were felled with a slash to the neck each. 12 Miyoshi warriors lay dead at his feet. It was an incredible display. But it seemed he had single-handedly saved the shogun. But just then, a few dozen more rushed in. Yashifushi tried his hardest to fight off the new horde. But he was soon overrun and stabbed several times. He was first to fall. Yashizane fired arrows from as far back as possible. His back was practically to the doors of the sword room. His arrows would consistently injure or kill assassins during the entire ordeal. Yashifuji with his massive odachi cut down 2 or 3 men at a time. Yashitada and his heavy club rendered his opponents into a red paste. But his massive size made him a big target for arrows and soon his soft flesh became a pincushion for many Miyoshi arrows. Saki cut down and brutalized many attackers with her naginata until it was cut in half. Even then she used it as a nagamaki until it was cut again. She used the blade to open one man's neck and she lodged it into another's head. She took their swords and fought on. Yashifuji had taken several wounds from spears. He started to slow down but was in better shape than Yashitada. Yashitada had been hit by a dozen arrows. He dropped his kanabo and grabbed 2 assassins by the throat and fell over onto them, taking 2 more with him to the grave. Yashizane continues to shoot down his enemies. Saki continued to cut them down. But they continued to pour in. Yashifuji made one final charge, cutting down a half-dozen before being riddled with spears. Hisahide at last arrived and Saki noticed him immediately. If I cut off the snake's head, the body dies. She made a desperate charge at Hisahide. Yashizane noticed and started providing cover fire. Saki cut down a dozen assassins in a last-ditch effort to save her lover. But she sustained several wounds en route and expended the last of her stamina. She collapsed and Hisahide approached her. "Please, spare our beloved shogun." Hisahide kneeled down. "I told you that you would get yourself killed." He then slit her throat personally. Yoshizane fired arrows at him. He waved his hands and, Kurohitsuji, walls of black powder caught and stopped the arrows. He then pointed his finger at him. Kagutsuchi, a fireball, set Yoshizane alight. But despite being burned he still fired. Hisahide formed a sword of black powder and cut off both of his legs at the knees. Yoshizane still attempted to fire on him until at last Hisahide cut off his bow arm. Hisahide exploded the doors to the sword room.